This is Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda. So it's week 23, the eternal now. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. When will I find God? Many devotees have asked this question because worldly goals require time, usually for their fulfillment. We imagine time to be a factor on the spiritual path. And so it is, but only because we think it is. God is as much with us now as he will ever be. It is not he who needs to come to us. We need to come to him. And that process of coming is a matter of transforming our self-perception. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 4, Jesus Christ says, "Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest? Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest." There is a practical teaching in these words, apart from their statement that we have God already and have only to realize that truth. Jesus is saying, lift up your eyes and look. To hold the eyes uplifted is the best position for meditation. For the seat of superconsciousness lies at a point midway between the eyebrows in the frontal lobe of the brain, just behind that point. This point is also known as the Christ center. By lifting up your eyes and concentrating there, you will find it easier to enter the state of ecstasy. That is why saints in every religion have often been observed during states of deep inner communion with their eyes uplifted, focused on the inner light, white, as Jesus said, all ready to harvest. The Bhagavad Gita goes further into this meditative teaching. In the 6th chapter, it states, holding the spine firm, the neck and head erect and motionless, let the yogi focus his eyes at the starting place of the nose, the point between the eyebrows. Let not his gaze roam elsewhere. In meditation, tell yourself, I have him already. I am alive forever in the divine light. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
The work in Yogananda's work through Ananda and through Swami Kriyananda in Europe started sometime in the early 80s in the north of Italy, in Como. And so I would like to take you there in 1985, May 19th. And it is Swami Kriyananda's 59th birthday. And so, of course, there were celebrations. There have been celebrations. It's been a beautiful day. The work was very small. There were not as many people as there are now. Of course, there was no internet. I have no idea how I have managed to find that place. I was there in a little room. I was a student in Holland, and how I discovered that Swami Kriyananda was in Como is still beyond me. I just don't know. So there has been a beautiful Indian banquet, of course, and at the end, so we're already basically to withdraw, and we're out there on the compound, and Ram, all of a sudden, here he is, lifts not only his eyes, but also his voice. And he raises his voice and he says, Swami, look, the same rainbow as last year on your birthday. So we look up into the sky, and the sky was still blue. It was sort of twilighting, but it was still blue. And there was a rainbow, but it was not a rainbow, it was a little fragment of rainbow, just like this big. I mean, that's what it looked like. So it was not a bow at all. You look into the sky, a blue sky, there's no rain, the sun is set, is going under. And we look up and we see that. And so Swami he was very simple and said, well, that's our blessing for today. And then we all said good night to each other and we went to sleep. Can you remember that?
No.
Okay. Well, it's in the eternal now. It's
Yeah.
Anyway, this happened. A few days later, we're going for a walk, and we're talking about the eternal presence. But sometimes memories just are not just remembering. Sometimes, I don't know if you know the experience. I think you do. Like in a moment of you're maybe almost falling asleep, or you're having a yoga class and you're in relaxation and there's a sort of music, a memory just becomes present again. The same sensations, the same vibrations. It's called, I think, involuntary memory or something. It's not your thinking or telling the story about the past. No, it's right here. And so we're walking there, and it's very joyful. Swami, there were a few people, and Swami, of course, was putting out a lot of energy into creating the work, magnetizing Yogananda in Europe. And so I remember Swami's wife, Rosanna, had taken my arm, and we were walking, and some people were walking, and he was walking in front, and we were talking, and it was a very joyful walk, and all of a sudden he stops and he looks in the meadow and said, look at those beautiful flowers there. And we were all watching those flowers and enjoying them for a few moments, and then we continued our walk together. His gaze, that Krishna says should always be fixed at the point between the eyebrows. He always looked at beauty. He always looks at beauty everywhere. When I saw him the very first time was the day before his 59th birthday. He was giving a little satsang to a group of Germans. And it was in the little house where he stayed. And I was very young. I am very young. So my heart, beats fast because he was going to walk into the room, and we had exchanged a few, not emails, because there were no emails, but a few letters. And in he walks. And so I'm in the presence of a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. And so he sat down, and of course I couldn't take my eyes off him. And he started chanting, and I could just see, like again, the real yogi. His mind was completely fixed at the point between the eyebrows, which was, of course, then and still is a great inspiration for me. So let us ask ourselves the questions. We have 3 eyes, right? Don't we? Well, the yogis say we have 3 eyes. We don't just have 2 eyes. 2 eyes watch the world around us, and the 3rd eye contemplates the spirit, the indwelling spirit within us, the joy within us, the light within us. So, but of course, we're not going around all day long like this, going to the shop and saying, "Can I have some bread, please?" And so, because I can't see it, So I need to keep my eyes open during the day on the battlefield of daily life. I always like to call it a battlefield because for me it is. And so we must ask ourselves, what do we do then with our sense of sight, right? We need to become, I think, and I'm working on it. I can't say by any means that I've already accomplished, even that much. But what do we watch? What do we really put our gaze on? Well, the first thing that comes to mind, we've been talking about internet a lot. Our gaze is often fixed on a computer or on a little cell phone, isn't it? Okay. So, for example, I learned when I was teaching in the school here, one of the mothers said that for young children under the age of 6 maybe, the whole sense of sight should not be, they shouldn't even watch a screen because it's bad for the development of their brain. And then I heard another thing about watching, for example, a lot of video clips, it can be TikTok. I don't know TikTok, some of you may, but that's only video, I think. But I do use YouTube when I want to update what's happening in the world. So what happens is that if you watch a movie, for example, and so you can see something is a man, he's at home, he's having dinner, and then 1 second later, you see him at work. Okay, in a movie, this is possible, right? So, but in reality, in order to go to work, we need our bodies. We need to stand up, move our bodies, either take a car or walk or take our bicycle, whatever it is. And the fact that the movie, I'll call it movie, constantly suggests that you don't need your body because you're just watching, it makes the jump so fast, is not good for the brain. It's not good for concentration. And what we need, and it makes the mind a little restless, hurried, because you think you can move from your house to your work in a split second because the cutter of the movie has arranged it in such a way. It just doesn't happen that way. And if we want to become omnipresent or bilocate and have two bodies, we should not spend our time watching videos. We should spend our time watching meditating, of course. Now, I'm not preaching here. I'm just sharing, I'm sharing thoughts and considerations, and also something that I am working on myself. Because my name is Darshan, and I need to really be very careful about what I watch, what I don't watch, and so forth. So, in fact, I once remember I had two things. Once I needed some recreation, and I thought I'm going to watch a movie. The movie was called Saving Soldier Ryan. Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan. And I thought, I can handle that. I have a skin as thick as an elephant, and I can handle the violence. No problem for me. So I watched the movie, and I enjoyed it really very much because it's a heroic story. It's like, a small platoon of soldiers saving one soldier because he happens to be the last of siblings, and the other siblings have all died on the battlefield, and so they want to save this one and return him to his mother. So it's a noble story, and these boys are very courageous and so forth. So I watched them, with my elephant skin and the violence. I don't care the violence, I'm a man, But then I tried to do Hong Sau. That is our basic meditation technique. And so you sit down and you watch the breath, and then you use the mantra, and the breath is supposed to slow down. Well, it didn't slow down at all. It went on. Then the heartbeat is also supposed to slow down. No, didn't slow down at all. It went on like for half an hour, and I've never experienced something like that so strongly. So, just to think about, what do I watch? For what do I use the two of my three eyes? It's important to think about those things. Then I had one other experience which was actually very interesting, and I hadn't taken drugs. I was lying in bed, and I think it was waking up in the early morning, and all my energy was somehow here, and it was as if there was a power that was just, like cleaning and throwing away all the images that I had, seen over the past months, maybe watching a movie or reading, I don't know, Facebook or whatever it was, and my third eye was just expelling it. Those things don't happen very often to me. They hardly ever happen. Maybe they never happen. So I've remembered this experience, and I realized that there was a message for me there. So, by the way, it's the same with music. So in the old days, let's say Mozart, Bach, if you wanted to hear music, you couldn't stay home. There's nothing at home where you could listen to. There's no radio, you had to go and take maybe either walk or take a coach, I think it's called, and go to the theater or go to a concert hall or some place where people play music. And the reason why composers often put a repeat sign in their music is because the music needs to enter people's memory. So you have to play it twice, because then people will remember it and take it home with them. It's a beautiful idea. But now it's as if you can get music anywhere, and rarely do people listen a piece from the beginning to the end. Let's say, I really want to hear Yesterday. Such a beautiful song. Yesterday, all my troubles seem. So you hear it, you hear the opening chorus. Yesterday. And then after a few minutes, before the song is over, you stand up and you start preparing breakfast and you switch it off. So people don't even take time to listen to a piece from the beginning to the end, right? So just to say that certain modern technologies have dramatically changed what we do with our sense of sight, in this case with our sense of hearing, and in both cases with our with our brain. So in yoga, these are called, no, not in yoga, but we call these also, they can become fillers, right? So we don't, some people use the radio, they have it on all the time. Or the radio, no, it doesn't even exist anymore. I think I'm behind a little bit. They have the television on. No, television is also behind. They have their computer on all the time, and there's always something going on, and they're watching, and they're not watching. So we call that fillers. And the idea of a filler means that it makes you forget time. And that is a very natural and understandable desire that we have, maybe even a need. I don't like the time passing by and this body getting older, and I don't like that idea. And then it's my next birthday again, I'm going to get a year older. You need to do something to forget that. But fillers do make you forget it, but then they don't make you transcend time. In fact, they make you even more dependent on other fillers, because when you get out of it and you do something else, your willpower has weakened a little bit. And you don't use that willpower to transcend as well as you could do it if you learn to live more without those things. Okay, so these are just, considerations that personally I'm working with, and I think it's interesting to share with you all. I think it can be very inspiring. So now, what can we do then? Apart from avoiding certain things, how can we turn, I'm very proud of this invention, how can we turn sight into insight? Yeah. Isn't that great? Okay, so here is intuition. So when the eyes are looking up, as Swami writes in his reading, then you become more intuitive and you gain more insight into the nature of reality and into many, many, many aspects of reality, whatever you focus on. But again, what is focus really? I think part of the reason why time is so important for us is because we have desires. The ego has a lot of desires. And what does a desire say? It postpones happiness. Because I'm saying I won't be happy until I get this one satisfied, right? So instead of being happy just now, I say, no, I can't be happy now. First I need this desire happy, this desire fulfilled, and then I'll be happy. So that is not living in the eternal present exactly, right? But when we focus, we can choose to focus. And focus and concentration are, of course, yogic powers that each one of us can develop. It doesn't matter where you are with your on the path. Wherever you are, you can always decide to do a little workout with your mind and learn concentration, always. So focus basically also means to enjoy the here and now. That's what I've thought. So when I look at a painting, for example, we have a painting, we have Dana. We have Dana here, so I said, I'm going to talk about paintings. You look at a painting, it's very different from looking at moving images, isn't it? Because it tells you the story. The more you focus on it, the more you watch it, and then maybe you close your eyes and you watch it with closed eyes, the more it starts telling you. It really does. I mean, that is something, a joy that I've had when I went to a museum last time, in Amsterdam, I think it was the Van Gogh Museum. And I've learned to watch a painting and to look at it and to stay. I'm not at all visually, gifted with painting or drawing or so, but I can enjoy it. I just watch it and it tells me more and more and more. And in my own room, I have a wonderful drawing of the dunes in Holland, which when I watch it takes me there. It makes me omnipresent. I have an old drawing that my father made. He's in the other world now. He's no longer around here. And I watch it and I can feel his presence. And it doesn't move and I can focus on it. And it gives me some spiritual nourishment. What is very good also for developing focus and concentration and using the sense of sight is watching pictures. So instead of watching, of course it's wonderful that we have pictures or videos of Master walking around, but when you focus on a picture of one of the masters, or for that matter any spiritual object, it can be a little statue. I love Kali, some people love Shiva or Lakshmi, and you just watch it. Like here, right outside the temple, we have a wonderful statue of Krishna playing his flute, and upstairs we have Saint Francis in a little niche. And just stop and watch it and focus and just feel that the more you focus on it, the more it begins to nourish your heart. It really does. And another thing that you can do if you want to develop this spiritual quality more is to read more. But then I mean read novels, read poetry. Now that is difficult for many modern people, for people who live in this age, because we have become a little bit impatient with books, with novels, and let alone poetry. Certain poems only give you nourishment if you read them over at least 10 times. You need to read them again and again. I presented a book by Swami, the novel that he wrote. Actually, he rewrote a novel by a British writer. Her name was Marie Corelli, and he named it Love Perfected, Life Divine. It's a beautiful book, and I had to present it, so I had to read it twice at least. And I find myself reading the same sentences over and over because the book contains a lot of descriptions. And what do descriptions do? They describe a sunset, a yacht, the Scottish landscape. They describe, and when they describe, they evoke images in your own mind. The image will be different for every mind, but that too is very good to develop focus, to develop the third eye. Yogananda said books are like friends, and sometimes it's even better to spend time alone with a book and feel your friend, even though he died maybe 60 years ago, but he's alive as ever in his book. For me, it's the same with the autobiography of Yogi. I always discover something new in it. It's not immobile. It's alive. It's really alive. And then also focus on nature. Watch nature. I remember as a child I come from Holland, and we went on vacation to one of the islands in the north, Texel, and we went there in the fall. And of course the climate there is not as it is here, and so in the fall there was a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and we enjoyed it so much. And I remember I was just sitting there inside, maybe with a book, and looking out of the window, and you see the wind playing with the trees. And it always gave me a sense of peace. It gave me nourishment. So also watching nature, watching the sky, watching the trees, watching the flowers, and so forth. We have to seek the darshan, you might say, of God. And I had a little ongoing discussion with Devi, who is one of the two. David and Jyotish are the spiritual directors of Ananda Worldwide. And she said, you are too melancholic. And I used to be a little, have a little of that, some melancholy. And then she said, Swami gave you a name which is also a task. It's not just like, now I'm Darshan, I'm a spiritual. No, it's more than that. He called you Darshan because you have to learn to focus more on the light, and then you will overcome that tendency to be a little melancholic. So it has been so far a very beautiful and joyful journey from 1985 up to now. And I'm continuing to do it. When you meditate often, when you practice the sacred science of Kriya Yoga, if you have that, but any meditation takes you back into the present. You might even say that meditating means returning to the present. Will reinforce your capacity to do what Jesus says. He says, 4 more months until the harvest is ready? No. Look up, lift your gaze, and see. The fields are already white with harvest. Thank you.